Alrighty, welcome to the Lockdown Podcast. We are finally out of the realm of the WrestleMania and now moving to Backlash coming this Saturday or Sunday. I think it's Saturday.
Saturday.
And so we are through the WrestleMania stuff. Now we're on to creating new whatever stories to work our way into Backlash. Obviously, most of the matches on the Backlash card are obviously very predictable. Nothing really, nothing really backlashy about Backlash. Um, but I digress. So, so we get to Raw last week, and so we finally get the face between Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and you know, Seth Rollins is a G, okay? And like, obviously you have Braun Breaker who obviously definitely chirped, at the same level as Seth Rollins, the back and forth stuff, and obviously leading us, to a match at Backlash, which I feel like is at least a match that makes sense to be at Backlash. Um, and and like I said last week, this just makes me believe less and less in injuries because stuff is way too convenient to happen for me to think, oh yeah, all of a sudden he came back right in time. So yeah, so I mean, this is all very easy to deduce that probably wasn't that serious. He might have it might have been something mild that they over exaggerated just to give him enough time to deal with the mild of an injury, just so they would have time to bring him back at WrestleMania. So, um, yeah. So I don't understand what they're doing with Penta now with the Intercontinental Championship. He's basically going back through and facing pretty much everybody he faced at WrestleMania in basically singles matches, and I don't know the purpose of it. I mean, in this sense, like it was obviously a non-title match with Rusev, which I feel like doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have the champion against another competitor in non-championship matches, because I hate when they do this, and I think we're probably all on the same page where it's like, if you're gonna wrestle, your title's on the line. That's what makes it more interesting, right? But to have a non-title match, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The secondary titles are the workhorse titles, and it would make it more interesting if no matter when they fought, that it was always on the line. It doesn't matter if it was a wash match or a legit match. Those the secondary titles shuffling throughout the roster, it's good for business. It's good to be able to have interesting storylines, because you have a plethora of wrestlers holding those titles, and there's always feuds to be had. But I don't think they're doing much justice with just basically running it back. But I digress, I guess. But like, what do you guys think as far as kind of how they're really booking, I guess, in its entirety, of like the men's and women's like secondary titles? Like, what are your guys like thoughts on how they're getting booked out?
There can definitely be some improvement, but there might be how they're just slow building characters for world championship runs, or just trying to milk a character for all that they can. It just depends. I think Penta being where he is right now is good for him right now, but hopefully they don't drop the ball with him and putting him in world title contention and having serious thoughts about making him the face of the company. As long as as long as he can still continue to work and there's still stories for him, I don't think we need to have every workhorse title, as you would say, as an open challenge match, but definitely having those championships on the show makes it worth going to a WWE show.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
To be honest with you, I think the women's work titles are just kind of boring. I think the Intercontinental is probably doing a lot better. The men's Intercontinental Championship can be better. I think it needs to be put on somebody, probably, my honest opinion, a powerhouse. The U.S. for men's, it has a decent good guy to carry it, but I think it's going to be a lame ass storyline with it.
Yeah.
Women's US, I think that just needs to go away because I don't really see any point in it because they're putting it on people that don't really can make that title.
Yeah, and they're very repetitive with the matches, and I don't think there's enough women in the mid card level to defend 2 titles. I feel like if I feel like, like they have in NXT where it's just the North American or whatever. I don't think it should be either be the US or the Intercontinental, doesn't matter. And to be defended on both brands and just have one, because with the way they've been releasing people, and whether they were individuals or whether they were tag teams or whatever. I mean, and I'm talking like the last couple of years, not just the ones that happened recent, but, I definitely think, I feel like it would be more interesting to have the title on being on Raw and SmackDown and having one title, because that would give you more wrestlers to go after one. Because it's like with the Intercontinental, I mean, they gave it a whirl when Lyra won it the first time, and then they did the stuff with Becky, and then they did Becky and AJ, and then it's just like they're just running circles around the same 4 to 5 people.
Yeah.
In that mid card championship like realm. And it's like you also have to throw in the fact that you have the women's top champions. So you have that. And so there's just, so it's getting so limited.
Mhm.
And it's nice that they brought people up, but like from NXT, but a lot of them were the guys. So like there was only Fatal Influence, I believe, and I think Sol Ruka and possibly Blake Monroe, but like that's still not enough. And they don't utilize the roster they have, because we haven't seen Natalya in forever. We haven't seen Maxine Dupree in a while. I would there's just so much in the women's division that there's not enough women to accommodate all of it.
Let's say what's her name that was part of the Chad's group.
Yeah, Maxine Dupree.
She lately right now she's been doing bodybuilding at the moment. She's off doing that. I think she just took first or second place in the last one I just saw.
Huh.
Is it Ivy Nile?
Yeah, Ivy Nile. I
thought about Maxine Dupree. No, Ivy Nile makes sense.
Yeah, she was off doing bodybuilding contests at the moment. Like the wearing the swimsuits, flexing muscles and shit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and the thing is too is, and then you have the multiple women in Judgment Day, obviously Liv being the champion, and so you really haven't utilized Roxanne Perez. You haven't really utilized Raquel Rodriguez.
I feel like
And
Roxanne Perez is going to lead the group. Not
I
Roxanne.
and I it's
Yeah.
yeah, Roxanne Perez. Yeah, there's definitely some inklings. But yeah, no, so I again I just want to reiterate that there's you have the tag, you have the secondary, so you have essentially 5 titles you have to spread out amongst a non-existent, a not utilized division. And and I feel like Roxanne needs to go and do her own thing anyways. I think she'd be better off. Honestly, Raquel has been screwed over by Liv Morgan more times than we can count. And so it only would make sense for her to eventually get her comeuppance against Liv Morgan. So I feel like, these women in the groups, they don't do anything individually. They only function as a group. And it doesn't, you're not going to see Fallon Henley go for a championship. You're not going to see Lainey Reed go for a championship. You might, and then you're basically, Fatal Influence is essentially the bloodline. And so JC Jane is essentially the Roman Reigns of that group, and everybody else just follows suit. So, I don't know. I'm hoping they get something going that's compelling in the women's division, in its entirety. But moving, so now we also see we had gotten the emergence of Ethan Page up to the main roster. Obviously, him and Javon Evans have a past. And so I think there's definitely something there for those guys to do on the main roster.
I find I'm not a big fan of him.
Who?
Ethan Page.
Oh
I mean, he's
don't get me wrong. He's a good athlete, good talent. He has a lot of star power, but I'm not feeling his character very well.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't like his character, but
I mean, I don't see him breaking out beyond mid card for 3 to 4 years.
I would probably give him like 2 years.
Yeah, and so and the thing is that like the ego thing is he's basically a miniature Miz when it comes to the whole thing. And so I see him if trained right and invested in right, that Ethan Page could be basically something of the realm of the Miz, where he like the Miz only functioned as a heel. Like I was watching an interview of him and it was like when he was a face, he just wasn't it. And some people you can only go one way. And the Miz is just the guy that you just love to hate.
It's to say, the Miz, no matter if he's a baby face or a freaking heel, fans still cheer for him and boo for him, no matter what side he's playing as. But I've always been a fan of the Miz. I've been a fan of Miz when he was part of the freaking Real World.
Oh man, should have throwback or Road Rules.
Road Rules too.
Yeah. So this doesn't make a whole smothering of sense. So we get Becky Lynch coming out, and obviously Io Sky comes out to basically confront her, have a spat, and I'm in my head I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna work towards Io Sky, Becky Lynch, finally maybe move the Intercontinental to someone else that hasn't held it or been in any kind of storyline. And then we get the emergence. So we had Becky Lynch so we ended up getting Becky Lynch versus Io Sky. And then obviously with the help of Asuka. And it's crazy to me how with the recent release of obviously Kairi Sane, it's amazing how fast they move and act like Kairi Sane was never there. Like Asuka comes out and does what she does, and we completely forget that a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Kairi Sane was there and they were doing their bits in the back, and then all of a sudden, poof, she's gone. And then everything, the machine just keeps moving, and Asuka's back doing what Asuka does. And honestly, I think that's better for Asuka anyways. I think the whole Kabuki Warrior stuff was holding her back anyways. We want to see the Asuka of 7-8 years ago, the one with the longest NXT win streak. We want to see the Asuka and Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Like, that's the Asuka we want back. It's the same thing with Finn Balor. We don't want like the Judgment Day do-gooder Finn Balor. We want the demon, and that's what we got. And that's when things are better, because we talked for what, a year at least, about we were wanting the downfall and we wanted Finn to go do his own thing, and we got it. It just took a while, but bringing back the demon was just awesome.
Oh yeah.
And I think Finn is honestly happier now. And I mean, obviously we don't know exactly what's real emotion, what's fake emotion, but I really feel like, Finn rang that chamois for all it was worth, being in Judgment Day, but we're all happier to have Finn by himself, because that's the best Finn. And sometimes groups or tag teams really kill the momentum, of wrestlers. So, so the next thing we got a glorious concert, from one Joe Hendry, and
Yeah.
like, what a banger. Like, that is going to be my new ringtone. Okay. Can we like Paul, can we fire Logan Paul? Like, I thought that was absolutely amazing. And I really feel like there's a certain degree of truth that the fans really just don't like Logan Paul, and they truly just want him to go away. And now I will say, and I am the biggest Logan Paul hater, but but at least he's on TV regularly now. He's not just some sideshow. He's not just some once in a couple months. At least he's actually on TV every week. Now, they're not really doing a whole lot with their titles, because that's just typical WWE, but at least he's on TV consistently and pissing people off on the regular versus every couple months. Now, I don't really know like how these matches really get set up or built, but we get Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano, and obviously Rey gets the win, and we're on the cusp. I don't know exactly. Someone want to check it, but like, when is the mask versus mask on AAA, with the OG Americano versus the better El Grande Americano, because he can actually speak Spanish. Like, I really think it's really just daunting and sad that, like, it was the best thing for the character for Chad to get hurt. Like, Chad don't speak English. You don't speak Spanish at all.
That match is May 30th.
Man, we got some time. Yeah, I think that it's really.
I think Chad's gonna lose that, because I think they're gonna give it to what's his name, because he's more. I think he's more loved by the fans and hated by the fans more than Chad.
Well, but
Chad needs to go back to himself.
Well, and the thing is that Ludwig can speak Spanish and very fluently. He can go to AAA and cut a promo in Spanish. Like,
done.
He's legit. but I hope Chad Gable loses and we just go back and
It's funny when he was trying to sit there and talk to Ray and he started speaking in Spanish. Ray's like looking at him like, what the hell did you just say? And then he looks at the other guy, like, and then he speaks Spanish, and Ray's like, "Yeah, I understand you."
yeah, I mean it's just funny because it's just like, again, the best thing for the character of El Grande Americano was Chad getting hurt and someone else taking over. So
Agree. And
so
Chad,
not-
he
you
needs
know,
to go back to himself, being
yeah,
his own self, and all I can say, that dude is one jack son of a gun.
yeah,
He's ripped now.
and I don't know what they're doing with American Made at this moment anyways.
House shows.
Yeah, I mean, and so I don't know. I kind of would like him to go back with Otis, and just maybe do a run for a little while and then, have a falling out or something. Maybe we get an Otis versus Chad Gable down the road or something, and we just kind of get a more of a conclusion than just him leaving and going doing and whatever he does. Because I think there's at least there's an inkling there, just because there's how Chad left, there's still some crumbs left on the plate, okay, and so if and hopefully Chad loses, we can revamp some things, kind of get some more conclusions, and then obviously move on. Now, speaking of conclusions, so we get Obafemi versus Grayson Waller, and I think it's amazing that like Oba just don't give no fucks, man. Like
No.
he like, and I mean he like, and he's a face like a motherfucker, but like he's a tough son of a bitch though. Like
That's why I say he's the next big thing.
I mean, 100% he is. And I think that as they continue to give him these matches where he just 5 minutes tops, dude, done.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I believe Frederick said last week is, like he needs to build credibility, other than just having one match and then all of a sudden pushing him. Like they need to continue that locomotive that is Obafemi, and squash match after squash match after squash match, and then once he's peaked out, then it's like let it rip, but he has to get there first. So yeah, so now the next match we got was Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez versus Bailey and Lyra Valkyria, and man, the women's tag team, when at least Lash Legend and Nia Jax had it was sought after. And now that obviously we are subjected to Brie Bella and Paige, I feel like the women's tag team division is floundering. And
It is.
I don't think that there's anything for Paige and Brie Bella to bring to the women's tag team division that wasn't already there. And
I got a question.
You
watch? I don't really watch NXT as much. Do they still have the women's tag team titles on NXT, or they got rid of them?
No, they combined them. So the women's tag team is triple branded.
Oh, that means
So
about all three brands. Okay.
Technically, yeah. So
I just
they don't. But
I wish they
yeah.
did. Since they the women's tag team division on NXT is, my honest opinion, a little bit better than the ones on the main roster.
Yeah, I liked NXT having their own thing because they're, you're in developmental essentially. And so you want to be able to build credibility, whether they're doing singles or they're doing tag team wrestling, you want them to figure out what works for them down there, and
Mhm.
if you're going to be in tag team, how do you be cohesive with your partner? If you're in singles, how do you carry the match? And so I think it's important that they would have kept it down there and just had it be its own thing, and let NXT just do what it does, and let the main roster do what it does, and keep them separate, just so they can learn about tag team wrestling, and they can learn about singles competitive matches, championship matches, and have those. But as soon as they took and combined the titles, they just washed that right out. There's really no women's tag team much in NXT right now. They
Yeah.
have the occasional mixed tag team, because obviously you have Mr. Iguana and I believe Lola Vice, I think,
Mhm.
that are the mixed tag team championship, along with Lola being the NXT women's champion. And so, yeah, it just washed out the women's tag team division in NXT, and I don't think that was smart.
And plus, the women's tag team titles on the main roster, they're, my opinion, ugly as hell.
Yeah, they're basic. I mean, honestly, most of the titles are pretty basic.
I like the men's tag titles on SmackDown more than I do the ones on Raw. The ones on SmackDown kind of reminds me of the way they're shaped and look. It reminds me of the Attitude Era versions.
Yeah.
That were my favorite tag titles.
Yeah. So we end up obviously ending the show obviously with Roman and Jacob. Obviously a lot gets said. Jacob Fatu ends up using, I guess, some basically what did you call it, the Samoan Sacco? Yeah, we're gonna speak that into the ether, but but
that was a Reddit find. I did not come up
yeah,
with those two creative
yeah.
words, but yes.
And we're gonna take
that is
credit, I
hilarious.
guess. But
Yeah,
but
we'll take credit for it.
yeah. So I mean, basically
will
the
take that.
Tongan death grip or whatever, and which I guess was a sacred move, I guess.
Oh shit, I fucking like it.
Yeah, I think it definitely. We haven't had a move like that in a while, I guess, other than like, Bray Wyatt doing the
Mandible Claw.
the mandible claw, basically. So, it's good to have fresh ideas, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, he doesn't say. You can tell Roman was like shocked. You could tell that he didn't see that coming.
I think there was a degree of it. Definitely, they definitely played it. It looked legit. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I think
even when it went off air and people had their cameras recording when he was walking up the ramp, where his face was still red. He was still coughing, still holding his throat.
yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's what makes professional wrestling interesting, is because that shit looked legit. So,
Oh yeah.
So over to SmackDown. We had Cody doing what Cody always does, and it's I hate to parallel Cody and Seth Rollins, because I love Seth Rollins, but it's like it's the same spiel over and over again. And to quote one Roman Reigns, it's like missionary position every night.
Every night, over and over again.
and over. and so, but we obviously, it was kind of nice to see the emergence of one Ricky Saints. And apparently Cody just gives out championship matches all willy-nilly. And so we get to have that match later on in the night. Now we've seen the emergence of Fatal Influence. one JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Lainey Reed, and they're definitely leaving their mark. And I think for as much as I dogged on JC Jane and saying that she just was an NXTer and she just couldn't break out, I will recant that because I think she's doing a great job in just the the week or so that she's had on the main roster and really just playing that character to a T. Kind of being the Roman Reign-esque character. Obviously with Lainey Reed and Fallon Henley basically kind of essentially being your henchwomen, I guess you could say. And so we see a match between JC Jane and Charlotte Flair. And, if you're going to go after anybody, you go after the biggest dog in the yard.
Damn right.
And that is Charlotte Flair in spades. And so good match, obviously a little bit of outside interference, but nonetheless, JC Jane does get the win against Charlotte Flair. And then obviously the whole attack broke out, and obviously, Rhea did offer her help beforehand. They said nah. But yeah, obviously we knew she'd come down. So like it was a foregone conclusion. But obviously thwarts them off. So I definitely think I believe they actually have that match. I think it's this Friday. I think it is Fatal Influence versus Rhea, Charlotte, and Alexa, I believe.
I think so.
So that's going to obviously be a pretty good 3-on-3, kind of the present and the future. So I think it's a good matchup. So yeah. Now the men's tag team division, honestly, kind of floundering at this point again. I think that's the word of the day, is floundering, because you can't release tag teams.
I mean, you can, because it's been proven.
Yeah, you can. I don't think a decorated team of the Motor City Machine Guns is someone you just push aside when you don't really have too many established tag teams, period. I mean, like they just like release all these guys and then just start like throwing guys together, and it doesn't gel right. Because when you have established tag teams that have been tag teams for the betterment of their career, like, they're better tag team wrestlers than two guys thrown together, because there's continuity that you can't just throw guys together and get.
Agree.
But so we get Damian Priest and R-Truth versus Fraxium. I'm glad at least Fraxium's still there. But good match, nothing too crazy. Obviously Damian and R-Truth obviously get the win still, and so they're still tag team champions. But it's good for there at least to be some kind of men's tag team wrestling, other than these super groups versus another super group, which we don't have anymore. like if you look back, I don't think it wasn't a War Games match, but it could have been. But you had the MFTs and you had the Wyatt Six, and and it was a phenomenal match. They've had street fights, they've had multiple good matches, and yet now the only people left is Solo, Tala Tonga, and who?
I think of the big dude's name.
Yeah, it's Tala Tonga, but I don't know if it was Tama Tonga or Tongaloa
It's
that
Tama.
got released.
It's
Tongaloa.
it's Tongaloa.
Okay. Yeah, and so like out of all those good matches, we're only left with like 3 people,
Right.
and
It's funny. They all made the 3 that got released made their debut at Backlash.
Yeah. Well.
One of
Yeah.
them was here for 2 years. Really, 2 of them were here for 2 years. One was here, debuted last year at Backlash, and gets released a year later before Backlash.
Yeah. What? How anti-poetic.
Yep.
But so basically, we get the emergence, obviously, of Solo with Talatunga, and then you obviously get the Usos coming out, basically being, equally pissed off of, Jacob Fatu using the Tonga Death Grip, and the craziness of it all is that at the end of it, Jacob Fatu was the only motherfucker standing, and everyone was out. Like, Jacob Fatu is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't leave much for the imagination of the believability, just looking at him and what he's done in the last couple weeks, that he's dangerous. And when Jacob's dangerous, that's not looking good for Roman Reigns.
Nope.
Now, I don't think we're gonna get a title change at Backlash, but I definitely think it whether win, lose, or any of it, like, Jacob's getting put over. Roman's gonna put over Jacob, even though Roman will probably hold the title still, but sometimes taking a loss is still a win. Because technically Jacob, I believe, is on the other brand, so this could be something down the road where we get Jacob going after the other title, and winning that. But obviously there's a lot of storylines going on, and speaking of storylines or lack thereof, so we get the Cody Rhodes Ricky Saints match, and it's funny that it's in the middle of the card. It's the middle of the night.
Well, I mean,
but again, it's because Roman is more important than Cody. And we're all over Cody. Him being at the mid card is exactly how we feel about Cody Rhodes. Like, you did what you did, you finished your story, you did this, did that. Like, we're done with you, dude. Like, yeah. But obviously Cody does beat Ricky Saints, obviously, but a good outing by Ricky Saints nonetheless. Another NXT call up.
It was a good match.
And the aftermath of the match, obviously, here comes Gunther, ready to choke out another freaking dude, and Cody's on the receiving end of that. Now,
I think Gunther's on SmackDown now.
Yeah, I mean, the brand split is a fallacy at this point. So
pretty much true.
But yeah, so I mean, but like the kicker of this though is that, like, when's the next PLE? I mean, June, like mid-June or something.
Let me look.
Yeah, because like if you're billing this out in the beginning of the month, like how much do you need to build to the next PLE to have this match? Because you don't want to like really drag this out.
There's you got Backlash May 9th, and then Clash in Italy May 31st. And
so then yeah, they're double dipping. So I mean,
and then SummerSlam is August 1st and 2nd.
So we're probably going to get this at Clash in Italy then. Is
probably
is the sounds of it, because it's not going on at Backlash. So I mean, I guess yeah, they have a couple weeks to fiddle faddle with this. Because it's like it's really funny how, like, when certain things happen in WWE, like like a Gunther choking out Cody Rhodes, right? Like it's always a very easy to deduce that this is just going to be a match later.
Okay, and for the one in June is Night of Champions, and that's June 27th.
Yeah, and I seen how far out Money in the Bank was, and that's just mind blowing to me.
I think that's in July.
Yeah, and it's always been in like May or June.
Yeah.
Basically like outside of the cusp of WrestleMania, because usually competitors had till about WrestleMania to cash in, and now it's like you're gonna do it way out in July. Like it feels like you're pissing away the year because you have such an opportunity for someone winning the Money in the Bank to really like get their build of them being Money in the Bank and having the allure of never knowing when they cash in. But it's like, if you're going to do it on the back end of the year, I mean,
the Money in the Bank pay-per-view show is this year, and it's Sunday, September 6th.
yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I
That
just
is-
looked that up.
That
I'm
is so
I'm gonna
deep.
see what the one is in July.
Yeah.
One. Yeah, they're doing weird stuff.
July 18th for the PLE in July. There's 3 things going on in July. July 5th is Saturday night's main event. And then July 12th is the all female pay-per-view, and that's the second.
Evolution 3. All right.
And then July 18th is another Saturday night's main event. And that one is at Madison Square Garden again.
I honestly think that's not a bad trio of 3 weeks.
No.
I mean, Saturday night's main event is just a like 3 steps above a normal PL or above like a Raw or SmackDown. And then honestly having, the all women's pay-per-view is honestly awesome. I think, but they really need to knock it out of the park because, every year they do it, they have to up their game. And,
Mhm.
So they have some time to figure it out because like you have to continue to do better at your PLEs, especially the all women's pay-per-views or PLEs. And so they got some work to do. But I think they definitely have some things in the chamber. So I actually really look forward to that. I feel like, them having an Evolution, I guess be the 3rd one they've had.
On here it
It's good.
says it doesn't say the 3rd one. It said it's the 2nd.
Well,
I don't know
they've
why
had,
they have it 7 as 2nd. It's supposed to be the 3rd.
it's the 3rd,
Mhm.
but yeah. So I mean,
It's Google for you.
yeah, never trust the internet, guys.
True.
There's a bunch of typos and a bunch of false news about professional wrestling. So we've been seeing Danhausen basically just run roughshod and cursing people, and it's very R-Truth level entertainment. And lately he's been obviously messing with the Miz. And Miz said on a podcast that his daughter likes Danhausen. And apparently he's like, you can't like him, and apparently the bike Danhausen stole, his daughter's like, you can buy me another one. So I man, Danhausen is becoming a household name, but I also don't want them to oversaturate it to the point of it just kind of being annoying.
But that's what they're going to do, and then it'll get annoying, and then you'll grow to love it again.
Use him sparingly, and he will last for 30 years in WWE. Because our truth's got to be on like, I don't know, probably 30 years in the company.
Something like that.
He's probably been in the company as long as Michael Cole.
I don't know.
But yeah,
He might have been.
yeah. But yeah, so then obviously with The Miz and Kit Wilson obviously getting the better of Danhausen, that leads us to a match at Backlash. And we have, I love the fact that Danhausen has a mystery partner, like it leaves so much to the imagination because of the there's so much to choose from. I mean, in all seriousness, there's surprises to be had. You know, maybe we get the Miz's daughter as Danhausen's partner.
Oh, that'd be funny.
They'll pull a random person from the crowd as they did for Braun Strowman at the referee's son. But yeah, I mean, I love this. This is just fun, and I think sometimes it doesn't have to be as serious. And what Danhausen's doing with the Miz is just fun. It's entertaining, and so I look forward to. I honestly hope we just wait till Backlash to get his mystery partner, but you know, maybe we hear something the day before, which you know I wouldn't be against either. So yeah, so now we got Royce Keys obviously back at Royal Rumble, and kind of withered away for a bit, and kind of now he's kind of reemerging, and basically he's kind of like the Obafemi of SmackDown, I guess you could say. Basically kind of running the same recipe, and basically squash matches, which is fine. I you know, it's no bread, no water, just meat, as Booker T says. So, yeah, I look forward to what they have planned for Royce Keys, though, because there's untapped potential there, and weirdly enough, his affiliation with Jacob Fatu kind of throws a little mystery to it too. Obviously, those two guys having history.
Yeah, they've known each other since 2019, 2018.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's always kind of those little nuggets, because like maybe down the road we get something with those two guys. You know,
maybe
possibilities are endless, right? I mean,
right.
If you're gonna throw two guys together, dude, heck yeah, man. Longest reigning tag team ever, Royce Keys and Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Roman, we are 1,300 days. We're gonna go like 1,500 days as tag team champions.
I don't see why not. I mean, let's go.
Like, could you imagine though? I mean, like, Jacob Fatu and Royce Keys. Yeah, best of luck, everybody. But so the week prior, obviously, we had Sami Zayn being unmasked as the Gingerbread Man, and obviously gets a one over on Trick Williams. And I don't know what this bit was about. It was not really funny. It was just kind of stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you know, maybe it was more fun in person. I don't know, but basically, Sammy was running, basically just talking as Sami Zayn does, and then ends up destroying the Gingerbread Man. And now next week, Trick Williams is doing a RIP to the Gingerbread Man, and
that's gonna be stupid.
I don't know what that is. I would rather see a contract signing for a contract that doesn't need to be signed than see the RIP to the Gingerbread Man. But
right
now,
sing a song too.
Yeah, Joe Hendricks comes out. But so speaking of my dislike for women's tag team champions Brie Bella and Paige, they face off against Nia Jax and Lash Legend, assumably being some kind of rematch clause, which they seem to do whenever they feel like it. When they've usually been verbal about certain championships not being able to get rematches, but hey, fuck it, they just do what they do.
Yep.
They
Exactly
they
right.
they choose. They just the rule book is gone. Ever since TKO took over, it's like, what does TKO want? And that's what we get essentially. And again, love it or hate it, we get what we get, and we come on here and chirp about it. So
Yeah, we come on here and bitch and complain about it.
yep,
Mm.
because
That's all we
but
do. It's us wrestling fans for you.
well, I mean, like we always say is that like we said about some of the storylines taking a while, like the Finn Balor stuff, like, you know what, long-term story booking. So, but we said obviously before, and we're talking about this, the Paige and Brie Bella being tag champions, and the fact that Paige is a better singles competitor than she's never really been much of a tag person.
No.
And this is again, I want them to lose, and I want the Bellas to go away. I want, and what's funny is that Paige came back and she's still one of the youngest females on the roster. Make that make
That's
sense.
crazy.
You know what's
She's
fun?
she's
Yeah.
33. Like, and a lot of the women's roster are like in their late 30s. Like, she can go away for 8 years and still come back younger, which blows my mind. But like, she's also been on the roster for all, she started at a very young age. So, but yeah, like I said, I want them to lose sooner rather than later, and to Paige go do what Paige does.
At least lose to a good team.
Yeah, and it's.
I would say
is what it is.
that new women's group that came up from NXT.
The Fatal Influence.
Yeah, I would like to see him lose against one of those. Well, two of those members.
Well, my only issue with Fatal Influence is that the only reason why Lainey Reed is there is because the other girl, I don't know if she quit or got released.
She got released.
And they just tossed another girl in there, and she hasn't put in the work. Like, they brought them up as a group because it was JC Jane's time. Not because it was Fallon Henley's time, not because it was Lainey Reed. They're only there because of JC Jane. And like, I'm very certain on that. And because JC Jane was in NXT for 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, she was there for a while.
Yeah, she was holding down as the top female for a long time.
I mean, she won the championship after the rest of the talent left. But I mean, like, she put in the work, she put in the grind, and Lainey and Fallon are basically reaping the benefits of JC Jane's hard work. So I want them to put in the work before they get anything.
Yeah, I think that they will. It just
because they, even though they're a group, they really haven't done much Lainey Reed and Fallon Henley tag team work, because you had Fallon chasing the Speed Championship, Lainey Reed just exists, and you had JC with the NXT Women's Championship stuff, and so they were never doing anything as tag teams. So, I hope they, figure out and get in some tag team continuity if they're going to be there, because they're a group, they're not a tag team, and the work's just not there. But so we obviously get Solo Sikoa, Talatonga, the Usos, blah blah blah, chirping about Jacob using the move that was sacred. And once again, Jacob Fatu lays waste.
He's a powerhouse.
He is dangerous. Now, our 5 matches we have for Backlash, which is actually kind of rare to have 5 matches at a PLE, but the fact that the matches are 7 to 10 minutes and the commercials are 5 hours, they can fit in 5. But we have Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu for the World Heavyweight. We have Trick Williams facing off again against Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. We have Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. Yeah. And then we have Asuka versus Io Sky. And then you have Danhausen and a mystery partner versus The Miz and Kit Wilson. And
I'm going to say it's Kit Wilson's tag team partner. I'm going to say it's him.
I think Elton Prince was released, though.
No, he's been
if
injured.
Elton
He's
comes
got
back,
a neck injury. He's got a neck injury.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're releasing.
No, he didn't get released. I still say I'm still gonna say it's him. I would laugh my ass off.
Yeah,
comes out with face paint.
Well, we shall see because anything's possible.
It is WWE.
Now, so we had a million releases, and it is what it is. And I guess there's nothing we can say or do about it. The New Day kind of left on their own accord, so it was a cordial break.
I wouldn't say it's cordial. I would say like they had no other opportunity. A couple of people on the internet have made really very eye-opening, not claims but realizations. Like if it was mutually parted ways, and they couldn't agree on a new contract, right? Or renegotiating their contract salaries. What was in that contract, or what did they want to pay them going forward versus what they had right now? That to me is like a really big question, because if it is insulting, you leave. You don't take the poor deal. You and I,
hell no,
Seth, are we're independent contractors, right? We have day jobs, but we also have independent contract work that we do. We have our set rates, what we negotiate. And if someone comes back and says like, hey, I don't want to pay you this anymore, but I want this, and I want to pay you this, which is insulting. It's like you have your set rates for a reason. So if someone comes back and tries to negotiate a different deal, no, you walk away. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, to
not feel bad about it.
No, you don't. I mean, we can be sad that the New Day is not going to be on WWE program. That does not mean Kofi Kingston and Austin Creed are not going to continue to be professional wrestlers and continue to have a professional wrestling life and careers outside of WWE. I think it is probably one of the better releases that could have came out of this WrestleMania season or the past couple of years, because there's no other tag team right now that people want to see elsewhere.
Yeah,
plain and simple. So
I could see them probably going to like, I don't see them going to like AEW. I could probably see them going to like TNA.
Yeah, I could see them going on a world tour if we were gonna like spend a few minutes on it. But what I am more interested in knowing and see how other independent contractors, because that's what WWE classifies their talent as, independent contractors. They 1099s, W9s, and that sort of thing. What was the deal? Because TKO wants to just make all of the money and not pay performers, and that they don't see the value in.
Yeah.
But everybody knows the work that the New Day has done. Another pro wrestling pundit said, with JC Mateo and Tongaloa, that JC Mateo is going to find work almost immediately. He's really great at his craft. Yes, he is
Jeff,
older.
Yeah.
So Jeff Cobb is going to be all right. I think it was a wasted opportunity. Jeff Cobb easily could have went down to NXT and had some fun.
The problem is the thing that sucks for Jeff Cobb is the fact that like they brought him in and put him in an unnecessary storyline. And they misused him. They made him a background character when he is a star anywhere else. And when they, even Tamatonga and Tongaloa, like, God, like you misuse them. You don't present them as they've been presented when they were top tier, and then they bring them to WWE thinking it's the pinnacle of reaching your success when sometimes it's not.
It's not.
Like Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, like in WWE was a background character. He did nothing. There was nothing to him. When he went on the indies, he exploded.
Oh yeah, he did.
The indie god, the deathmatch god. Like he went and he was 1,000 times better. You have Dean Ambrose that leaves Jon Moxley to AEW now, and he's been in AEW longer than he was ever in WWE, and he's a star there. He's
look at the way Karrion Kross is doing.
Yeah,
and then
they misuse people. They bring them in because they're top tier, and then they misuse them and they misrepresent themselves because they think that WWE is the pinnacle, and it's not anymore. And I'm not saying that going to AEW is the parallel to WWE on a global scale, but like, sometimes people leave WWE and they go to AEW and have better success. And I'm not saying that like in its prime WWE wasn't the bee's knees. It wasn't the pinnacle. It's just as soon as they made a deal with the devil and they teamed up with TKO, they lost the creative freedom, they lost the momentum, they lost the point of professional wrestling being a generational fan base. They've pissed that all away for extra money. They're charging astronomical prices for tickets to go to just a generic Raw or SmackDown, and it's becoming more of a UFC bit than it is a WWE. WWE is a whole different monster. For as long as it's been.
Let's say somebody did an interview with, I think his name is Tony Khan, the one that's in charge of AEW. They did an interview with him and brung up the whole ticket prices with WWE and what he thought about it. He just sat there and fucking laughed. He just laughed and kind of switched the subject on him. He goes, he just like,
and not that AEW prices aren't bad or aren't like the greatest thing ever either. But I think, when AEW rolled in, you viewed it as a TNA and a Ring of Honor, and it's really, we're about here with WWE being here and AEW being here. And slowly, because of the fan base and the ticket bullshit and the storylines being garbage, and you have WrestleMania and you have an hour of matches for a 4-hour show. Okay. You guys, you're all the commercial break shit. You have the ring looking like just a plastered. If you're getting all this sponsorship money, why the hell are you charging the customers more money when you're already getting money from sponsors?
That is true. Because one on top of it, I've been to a AEW show, and I've been to at least 2 TNA shows. It being going to my first AEW show, it felt more like being at a TNA show. It felt I liked it. I thought it was good. The environment was great, and the way they did their shows were great. Shit, I enjoyed the TNA shows. They were awesome. The one at the Van Andel and one at the Deltaplex.
Mm-hmm.
I was to say it was great shows. And ticket prices for AEW when I went were I spent at least under $100 for 2 tickets. And that was just for the lower bowl.
And and the thing is too is that what people fail to realize is that they are there for the entertainment of wrestling. And much like professional sports versus the minor leagues or the G League or the AHL or whatever, you're getting the same entertainment value whether it's professional or minors because everyone's working hard for their job. And if I can go to a TNA show for half the price, sit closer and get the same entertainment value, I might lean towards more being into TNA.
Oh,
If I can go to an AEW show and get as much entertainment as actually more entertainment going to WWE and paying less, this might become a freaking AEW podcast. You know what I'm saying? And so like you can't outprice everyone. You can't price the fan base out because guess what? Without us, you got shit. Like you don't exist. And that is the formula that Vince McMahon had. Yeah, we'll say his name in its entirety. Vincent Kennedy McMahon was that he understood that fans were the ones that paid the bills. He wanted generational fans. He wanted to have families at like with the Attitude Era was whatever it was, right? But like, as soon as things a little bit changed and he modified things, but he believed in generational fan base.
He did want to switch it from the Attitude Era. He did want to switch it to the PG era because the Attitude Era didn't really have a lot of kids at the shows.
Yeah, and I mean,
like it is now. That's why they switched to PG because there's more underage kids there.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're a fan young, you're a fan old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tim, you're prime example. I mean,
oh yeah,
you're generational on steroids. You've been to probably more regular shows than I've been to WWE and concerts. Probably, actually, I guarantee it.
As I say, my first wrestling show was a house show, and that was then the people at that house show. The main event was a cage match. You had The Godfather, you had Mankind, Kane, Road Dogg, Edge. The main event was Big Show versus the Big Boss Man. And yeah, you had X-Pac was there. A-Train, aka Prince Albert, he was there. And then after that, I went to my first Raw. My first Raw was part of the Attitude Era. It was Attitude Era slowly working into with it was the WCW. It was the Lions versus WWE at that time. I think for Raws, I think I've been to at least for Monday Night Raw, I would say about 190. For SmackDown, I think I've been to SmackDowns more than Raw. I think it was at least 200 of those. I've been to six or seven Sunday Night Heats. A few of the ECW shows where they taped those before SmackDown. The one show was called. It started with a V. I can't remember the name of that. And that was on before
Velocity.
SmackDown. Yep,
Velocity. Yeah.
been to a couple of those. I've been to a couple of the 305, the cruiserweight ones.
205 Live.
Yep, and plenty of the main events. Yeah, and 2 WrestleManias, 1 SummerSlam, Stand and Deliver. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I've been watching wrestling since I would say around 93, 94.
Yeah. So I mean, and like, and that's
I'm 38.
That's the thing is, and that's the story. That's what, like, Tim is prime example of what Vince McMahon wanted, like in its entirety. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been like a shit ton, dude. Like,
Oh yeah.
like I mean,
Ticket
it's so
prices,
like,
if I knew where all my tickets were, I have them somewhere. So they're probably in a box downstairs. I have every ticket that every show I've been to.
yeah, and like, and see, and like, that's what WWE is about, should be about,
Mhm.
but it's not. It's become a money grab, and it's lost its luster, just like pretty much every professional sport. Period. You know, baseball was America's pastime. Now it's America's who can pay me the most money for my time.
Pretty much.
You know, so
And they're bouncing on every single freaking fucking app service.
yeah. So
Yeah, they need to cut all that out. You know,
but
just
you know,
yep.
but you know, I mean, life will go on, I guess.
That
Well,
is
the
true.
show,
And,
the show does go on. Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
but like I enjoy doing this podcast, like I genuinely do, because like we're just generational fan base, man. I mean, I guess I'm kind of first generation because I had to sneak around to watch wrestling, but
Yeah, my neighbors, when I lived in Rockford, my neighbors got me hooked onto it, and
that's awesome.
My parents weren't too happy with it, but they said if I love it, I love it.
Yeah,
And as I say, I fell in love with the character, The Undertaker, and that was my all-time favorite growing up. He was somebody that I always liked.
Hey, I got the gloves and got the tie from his first
I
match on
remember when he
WWE
was
as The Undertaker.
as The Undertaker, and then Undertaker, and then I watched him. Seriously, I watched him when he was as that too for a little bit, and then he slowly worked his way into that, and it evolved into the Ministry. That was probably my all-time favorite Undertakers, the Ministry one. And then from the Ministry went to the American Badass, and back from American Badass to the Dead Man again. Yeah. I've seen all the evolutions of them.
Yeah.
Same thing with Kane.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have to play the wait and see game with everything that's going on right now.
We might see. We might find out this week in some more releases. Who knows?
Yeah, and so it's evolving, and that's just how it goes.
All I can say is, I'm gonna say it. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you, Xavier, for everything you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kofi, you paved the way for a lot of black athletes at the time. You showed them that you can get that World Heavyweight Championship.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so,
Xavier, man, I watched you in TNA. I seen you. You were at my first TNA show. Dude, you were awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, and I think that's the sentiment we feel honestly about a lot of the people that a lot of the wrestlers in its entirety.
That tag team did when I saw that, like, think yesterday or the day before when I saw that got released. That crushed me. Besides, what's her name that got released? That was with Asuka.
Kairi Sane.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was a little upset with that one.
Well, and I think Kairi Sane was kind of done for the right reasons, anyways.
She's back in, I think, New Japan. I think she's
Yeah.
signing a contract with them.
Yeah.
Wherever
Looks
she
like
goes, whatever they do. Yep.
I'll be
mean,
watching her over there.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin in this as we do. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully we get to, have more stories to talk about. And obviously we'll be on the outs of Backlash. And, I hope we have some new stuff to build because, it's been getting very complacent and very, very vanilla. So, we will wait and see. And this is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.